Okay, today we have a lesson on finding slope from an equation again, this time from standard form. As usual, there is a video guide to go along with the lesson. If you haven't printed it off, go ahead and pause the video, print it off, and then come back because we're going to be using those examples. So in our last lesson, we went over a special form for equations, linear equations. It was called slope-intercept form. Today we're going over something called standard form. Now standard form looks like this. ax plus by equals c. Okay, where a, b, and c just represent whole numbers. So this could be like 5x plus 3y equals 6. Something like that. That's just an example. Now, the thing about standard form is that it doesn't really tell you anything. Slope-intercept form was called slope-intercept form because it gave you the slope and the y-intercept. Standard form doesn't give you anything. So this form really doesn't help us. So what we're going to learn today is how to take something that's in standard form, convert it into slope-intercept form. That way we can find the slope and the y-intercept. So we're going to be solving equations that are in standard form today. And to start that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our examples on our worksheet. So number 1, we have 4x minus 3y equals negative 6. Okay, so we have to solve this for y. We have no information about this graph, about this line from this form. Standard form doesn't give us anything. So we need to put it into slope-intercept form. And remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And when it's in that form, m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So what I need to do is solve this for y. So I'm going to draw a line through my equal sign, and I'm going to solve for y. I want to get y by itself. To do that, our first thing that we're going to do is to cancel out the 4x. Okay? Now, to cancel out a 4x, just like when we were solving an equation, the opposite of a positive 4x would be minus 4x. So I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides. 4x minus 4x is 0, so those cancel. I get negative 3y equals. Now over here, usually we would go ahead and combine those, but the problem is negative 6 and negative 4x, those are not like terms, so I can't combine them because this doesn't have an x and this one does. So we're actually just going to rewrite the problem. Now, because we're trying to put this in slope-intercept form, that x term always comes after the equal sign. So I want my x term to come after the equal sign. That way it's in the right form. So negative 4x will come first. Make sure you keep the sign with it. That negative sign goes with that 4, so keep the sign. Then the negative 6 will come down as a minus 6. Again, because we're trying to put it in this form, the form slope-intercept form. Now, y is still not quite by itself. We have a negative 3 right in front of it. And whenever we have a number right in front of a letter, that means multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying would be divide. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 3, okay? All 3 terms, both terms over here. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 cancels, and I get y equals. Now, negative 4 over negative 3, I can't divide that. That does not come out evenly. So what I'm going to do is see if I can simplify. I can't simplify 4 over 3. However, I can simplify my negatives. Remember, a negative divided by a negative is actually a positive. So this becomes positive 4/3 x. Okay, negative over negative is a positive. Negative 6 divided by negative 3, that I can work out. Okay, negative 6 is divisible by negative 3, and that gives us a positive 2. Now that it's in this form, I can find the slope and the y-intercept, just like we did in our last lesson. The slope is always located in front of x, as long as it's solved for y, which now it is, now that I've done all that work. So the slope is 4/3. And the y-intercept, because it's a plus 2, the y-intercept is going to be positive 2. And that's our answer. This is the slope, this is the y-intercept, and we're done with the problem. So we had to do all this work. We had to solve it for y for us to be able to figure that out. The original problem did not give us the slope or the y-intercept, so we had to solve it to find both of those. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at number 2, and we're just going to keep practicing those steps. So number 2 is 2x minus y equals 4. And again, we're going to solve it. So to get y by itself, I've got to get rid of that x. That's the first thing I need to do. It's a positive 2x, so to cancel it out, I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. 2x minus 2x, those cancel. The negative y, please make sure that you bring that negative sign down. That comes with the y, okay? Negative y just comes down. Remember, I can't combine these, okay, because they're not alike. So my x term comes first, negative 2x. And then my 4, it's a positive 4, so my 4 just comes down after it. Okay? Now, this negative y needs to be a negative 1y. I need to put that negative 1 in there so that I remember to divide both sides by negative 1. So make sure that you put that negative 1. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 1. I've got to get rid of that negative sign. So they cancel. I get y equals negative 2 divided by negative 1. I can actually simplify that. So go ahead and do it. We get positive 2x. Positive 4 divided by negative 1 is negative 4. So now, when I look at this, my slope is just the number in front of x. So my slope is positive 2. And my y-intercept is negative 4. So I put negative 4. And that's my answer for number 2. Again, without solving this, you are not going to know the slope and the y-intercept. You can't just assume that the number in front of x is the slope, because in most cases it's not. So you need to solve it first, and that will give you the slope and the y-intercept. Okay? So let's take a look at number 3. We have 2x plus 5y equals 0. And I need to solve it. So first step in solving, putting it into slope-intercept form, is to cancel out the 2x. It's a positive 2x, so to cancel it, we subtract 2x. So I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. They cancel. The 5y just comes down, equals. Make sure you put your x term first. We want it in this form, slope-intercept form. So that x term, negative 2x, comes first. Now, this 0 can come after it. You can leave that 0 off, and actually a lot of times they will, like on tests or things like that. If it was a multiple choice question, that 0 wouldn't be there. However, because I'm trying to figure out the slope and the y-intercept, I like to have the 0 there so I don't forget that the y-intercept is 0, okay? Remember, if there's no number at the end, we know that the y-intercept is 0, but it's just a good reminder. If it's already there, you won't forget about it, okay? So I like to leave it there. So this is 5 times y. To cancel the 5, I just divide both sides by 5. Everything gets divided. So the 5's cancel. I get y equals negative 2 over 5. Can't divide it, and I can't simplify it. So I leave it. Negative 2 over 5. X. 0 divided by 5 is just 0. So my slope is what's in front of x, negative 2/5. And my y-intercept is that last number, which is 0. And that's our answer for number 3. Okay. Again, solving it gives us the slope and the y-intercept. Without that, don't really know what's going on. Okay. So make sure you solve it. Just 2 steps in solving it. You have to cancel out the x and then divide. So remember those 2 steps and you'll be fine. Okay, let's do one more together. Number 4, we have x plus 4y equals negative 16. So first step in solving it is to cancel out that x. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the 1 in front of the x so I don't forget what it is. I need to cancel out the positive 1x, so to do that, I'm going to subtract 1x on both sides so that they cancel. My 4y just comes down. Always, always, always put that x term first, so negative 1x, and then the minus 16 will come at the end, okay? After that, I just need to cancel out the 4. To cancel out the 4 in front of the y, all I do is divide. So I divide everything by 4. So they cancel. I get y equals negative 1 over 4. Can't divide it, can't simplify it, leave it. Negative 1/4 x. Negative 16 over 4, that I can divide. Negative 16 divided by 4 is just negative 4. So I put negative 4. Now I can figure out the slope and the y-intercept. My slope is just the number in front of x, so negative 1/4. And my y-intercept is negative 4. So our answer is negative 1/4 and negative 4 for number 4. All right, at this time, go ahead and try numbers 5 and 6, and then come back, take a look at your answers with what I've got, and then you can do the practice on your own. For problems 5 and 6, your answers are up here. For number 5, you needed to solve for y. You should have gotten y equals negative 4x plus 1. The slope is the negative 4 right in front of the x, and the y-intercept is positive 1. All right, for number 6, you needed to solve. Remember, when you're solving, that negative or that minus sign comes down and makes this a negative 3y. So you should divide everything by negative 3. And a negative over a negative makes this positive 7/3 x. And that can't be simplified. And do not change that into a mixed number. Remember, mixed numbers don't make sense for slope. Okay? So positive 7/3 and then positive divided by negative gives us the negative 2. So positive 7/3 for the slope and negative 2 for the y-intercept. And that finishes our lesson on finding slope from standard form.